The rain fell hard that night, blurring the neon signs outside the city hospital into streaks of color: red, blue, white, bleeding into one another like smeared tears. Inside, the smell of disinfectant hung in the air, cold and sterile. A woman sat in the corner of the waiting room, her thin hands trembling as she held a folded paper, the denial letter. Her name was Emily Carter, 34 years old, a single mother, and a fighter in every sense of the word. But now, sitting there in the flickering light of a Heartless clinic, she looked small, defeated, and utterly invisible. The world had already taken so much from her health, her job, and nearly her hope. But tonight it was about to test her in a way she never expected. Before we continue, if you believe in *** kindness, second chances, and standing up for those who can't fight alone ***, please take a moment to *** like, comment, share, and subscribe to * Soulful Kindness ***, because stories like this remind us that compassion can still change the world. Emily had been diagnosed with stage 3 cancer 3 months ago. She worked at a local diner, the kind of place that smelled of coffee, bacon, and cigarette smoke, where regulars came for warmth as much as for food. Her pay barely covered rent and her little girl's school fees, but she never complained. She had learned long ago that life doesn't slow down just because you're hurting. But when the doctor delivered the news that the disease was spreading, that she needed immediate treatment, it was as if someone had taken the ground out from under her feet. She had insurance, but it wasn't enough. Her employer had cut her hours when she became too sick to keep up. Bills piled up faster than she could count, and then came the rejection. The clinic, cold, polished, heartless, had sent her home, refusing treatment because she couldn't pay the upfront costs. They said it was policy. She begged, pleaded, offered payment plans, even promised to clean their holes if it meant she could get the chemotherapy she needed. But the receptionist, with tired eyes and a well-rehearsed tone of indifference, only shook her head. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she said, though she didn't sound sorry at all. "Without full payment, we can't proceed." Emily left that building feeling hollow. The rain soaked through her thin coat as she walked the dark streets home, the letter still clutched in her trembling hand. She passed people with umbrellas, warm coats, and laughter people who didn't even glance her way. Her little daughter, Lily, was waiting at home, sitting near the window, watching for her mother's return. When Emily entered, Lily ran to her, her tiny arms wrapping around her waist. Emily forced a smile. She couldn't let her see her break. She tucked her daughter into bed that night and sat by her side, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. "I'll be okay," she murmured, stroking her hair. "I'll get better." But deep down, she wasn't sure. The next morning, Emily went back to the diner. She needed the money, no matter how sick she felt. The world didn't stop spinning because someone was suffering. She wiped tables, filled coffee cups, smiled when customers complained, and swallowed the pain that threatened to consume her. Life went on. But behind the counter, her boss had heard whispers customers who noticed how pale she'd become, how her hands trembled. One regular, a man named Jake, watched her quietly from his corner booth. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a weathered leather jacket that told stories of miles and roads and battles fought in silence. He came in often, always tipped well, never caused trouble. That day, when Emily dropped a tray of plates because her hands gave out, Jake stood up and helped her pick them up. He didn't say much, just met her eyes and nodded a look of quiet understanding. Later, when she took his order, he asked gently, "You okay, ma'am?" She tried to laugh it off, saying she was fine, but Jake wasn't convinced. There was something in his eyes, a knowing sadness, the kind of empathy that only comes from someone who's been through the fire themselves. After his meal, he left a larger tip than usual and a note, "If you ever need help, real help, come to Iron Haven, ask for me, Jake." At first, Emily ignored it. She didn't know what Iron Haven was, and she didn't have the energy to find out. But as the days passed, the bills kept coming. Her body grew weaker. Her hopes started to fade. One evening, after another rejection from a charity fund and a phone call reminding her of overdue rent, she decided to take a chance. She found the address written on the note and followed it. It led her to an old warehouse on the edge of town, lit by the dim glow of street lamps. The roar of engines echoed before she even reached the door. When she walked in, she froze. The place was filled with bikers' leather jackets, tattoos, loud laughter, and music that shook the walls. For a moment, she considered turning around, but before she could, Jake saw her and waved her over. "Didn't think you'd actually come," he said, smiling softly. Emily hesitated, clutching her coat tighter. I didn't know where else to go." Jake nodded, understanding everything that wasn't said. He led her to a table where several other bikers sat, men and women, rough on the outside, but with warmth in their eyes. Emily told them her story, the diagnosis, the denial, the desperation. By the time she finished, the room was silent. One of the older bikers, a man with a gray beard and deep scars, slammed his hand on the table. "They turned you away because you couldn't pay," he growled. Jake nodded slowly, his jaw tight. "We'll handle it," he said simply. Emily blinked. "Handle it? What do you mean?" Jake smiled faintly. "You'll see." The next day, the roar of motorcycles filled the hospital parking lot. Dozens of bikers arrived together, their engines echoing like thunder. People stopped to stare as they dismounted, leather vests gleaming, patches displaying their emblem, the Iron Guardians. Jake led the group into the clinic, his expression unreadable. The staff froze, unsure what was happening. Jake walked to the front desk and placed an envelope on the counter. "This is for Emily Carter," he said firmly. "You'll start her treatment today." The receptionist opened the envelope, expecting trouble, but inside were stacks of cash donations the group had raised overnight. They'd sold spare bike parts, pooled savings, even auctioned one of their own motorcycles to gather enough. The clinic manager appeared, trying to protest, but Jake leaned closer, his voice calm but powerful. "You turned her away because she was poor. That ends now." Within hours, Emily was admitted. As the nurses prepared her for her first treatment, she couldn't stop the tears. It wasn't just relief, it was disbelief that strangers had done what no one else would. People she didn't even know had stepped in, not for fame, not for reward, but because compassion demanded it. Days turned into weeks. The treatments were hard, but Emily fought through every one. The bikers visited often, bringing food, helping with bills, even watching Lily so Emily could rest. The bond that grew between them was unbreakable. Jake especially became like family, checking in daily, making sure she never felt alone. Months later, Emily's health began to improve. Her strength returned. The doctors said her cancer was responding well. She was given a new chance at life, one she never thought she'd have. When she walked out of that hospital, the Iron Guardians were waiting outside, engines idling, smiles wide. Jake handed her a helmet. "You beat it," he said. "Time for one last ride." They rode together that evening, the sound of engines mixing with laughter, and the golden light of sunset washing over them. Emily felt free, alive, and deeply grateful. The same world that had once ignored her now showed her that kindness still existed, raw, real, and powerful. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Soulful Kindness because the world needs more reminders that compassion, no matter how rough it looks on the outside, is the most powerful force we have. And before this story ends, I have a special request, comment below what kindness means to you, because sometimes the smallest act of goodness can change someone's entire life.